Hello and welcome to the Two-Man Booth, your weekly scheduled podcast on the crazy world of professional wrestling. With me, Jonathan.
And me, Adam. And we'll start this week as we always do with the news, and I think the first thing we obviously need to talk about is we now officially have a date. Wednesday, October the 2nd, AEW will be debuting on TV. They're running out of the Capital One Arena in Washington, D.C., which
Is a large arena.
is a large arena. I'm not sure what it'll be set up for sort of professional wrestling, but I know it holds like 20,000 people for other events.
So for wrestling, like 16 or something.
Yeah, maybe 14, 16, somewhere in that category. If they can sell that out, that will be a huge statement.
They're going to need something to sell that out, though, I think.
Well,
I mean, they have the interest already, but I just wonder, like, do they need something extra to ensure that they sell it out?
Yeah.
It'd be a huge statement for them to say, welcome to a sold-out arena.
I think it will sell out personally, whether they have that thing or not. I think I think people will want to be there for the first ever TV show. I'm not saying that they're going to be selling out 12, 15,000 seater arenas week by week, because I do think they'll struggle with that. I mean, Raw now, usually sort of between 8 and 10,000 people that it draws. So for them to draw that regularly would be, to me, an achievement. I think more likely they should be looking at potentially what SmackDown draws on a weekly basis, which is more around the 5,000-6,000 mark. I think for a company that's just starting, I think if they can do that consistently, that'll be considered an achievement.
Yeah, I'd agree on that.
But for the first one, I do think they'll sell it out.
Yeah, probably. And we'll see whether Punk's going to be there or not.
Well, that is probably our next piece of news, actually, really, when you think about it in terms of what that means. So we've had Punk talking about StarCast. That was what the interview was actually about. I believe it was with ESPN, was the people who were interviewing him, but I'm not 100% sure on that. But he basically said that he had contact from AEW.
He's been texted only by Cody.
Yeah, but he didn't think that was a professional way of doing business.
Yeah, so he says anyway.
Yeah, and there was just something about the interview that made me, and I don't know whether it's just because I've been watching professional wrestling for so many years and I've become jaded and cynical, but to me that just screamed work, and I was like...
Because you talked about it so much.
Punk's going to be there, isn't he?
I think so.
That is my genuine feeling at the minute, is I expect Punk to
be
do
at
something at All Out.
Yeah, I
debut
agree.
in some kind of angle.
Like, how cool would it be if Jericho won the title and then Punk comes out at the end? Like, how cool would that be?
I don't think that's what they'll do.
No, but there's a lot of people talking about that as being the possible end to All Out.
I kind of wonder what they're going to do, because I think the most interesting thing to me about All Out is not necessarily whether Jericho or Page wins the title. To me, it's who goes over in Omega and Moxley. That's the one I can't really figure out, because Omega's already lost to Jericho. He is really their biggest star. Do you want him to lose again? But Jon Moxley's currently probably the hottest thing in pro wrestling.
Well, I did remember about a month ago now when we were talking about this, I did say that Punk would be a really good way to get out of that match and get out of having to have a finish.
I seem to recall talking about it, and I didn't like the idea.
And you say you think they should avoid screwy finishes for
now. Yeah. I just think it's a bit early in the piece to be doing that. But either way, I think this is basically... I think Punk will be there.
Punk's going to be there, yeah.
Which is kind of insane. So with that, I think the next biggest thing, because there's been a lot of news this week, the next biggest thing would probably be WWE and their sort of financials that came out earlier this week.
Well, no, all the selling of stock that went on just before
that was like, I remember I tagged you in something on Twitter.
Yeah.
Like
Vince,
I think it was
Steph,
the day before.
Hunter...
Barrios and Wilson as well.
Who's the Kevin Dunn sold some of his stock as well.
I think George Barrios sold like over half his stock.
Wow.
When I was looking at it, because I think that was over 50% of his stock.
It's concerning.
Michelle Wilson sold a significant chunk as well.
It's concerning, isn't it?
But the operating income was down by about 4 million, which is not massive, but there was a 5% year-over-year decrease in terms of the overall revenue. It wasn't a bad financials, but it wasn't.
Relatively
it definitely
down.
wasn't a good one.
Yeah.
It was. This
'Cause
company's basically
what
idiot
happens
proof at this point
because of
the
the
Fox
money,
money and the USA
Saudi
money.
money.
As soon as that comes, well, the Saudi money, yes, to a degree, but it's in the grand scheme of things, even that's kind of pales in comparison to what they're getting from Fox and USA.
But like, what happens? What happens if that goes away?
But they've
Like
got that for
that-
5 years. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
unless things go so bad that Fox cancel them, and that is a concern. But USA, they are definitely secure on for the next 5 years because they are like USA are struggling so much with ratings at the minute.
They
Raw
need
is
Raw.
still huge for them. Like they would really be in trouble if they lost Raw. I think that's why they've paid so much for
To keep it.
They couldn't afford to pay the same for SmackDown because I'm sure they would have loved to have kept that as well because it's still the two top drawing things on USA is those shows.
Mm-hmm.
So this company is basically idiot-proof for the next 5 years.
It's full of very, very smart people.
That seemingly are doing idiotic things for reasons we can't
Yeah,
understand.
like Vince is not stupid.
No,
like
no,
Vince,
not at all.
Like Vince McMahon is really not a stupid person, but he is doing stupid things. It's like I remember Jericho saying the same thing about Eric Bischoff, where he was saying that WWE was run by simpletons, and he said Bischoff was not a simpleton, but somehow he just lost it to the point where he was no longer in control. Vince is still in control, obviously, but it just feels like he's no longer making good decisions anymore. And he's always made bad decisions, but he's been able to recover them. And there's a lot of work to do with that company. There really is a lot of work to do.
And on the subject of things being down and the WWE Network subscribers not being where they would want them to be, they have announced, although we haven't got any details yet, that the way the WWE Network works is going to change. So we're going to have a tiered system now. Like I said, details are kind of scant on this so far, but there looks like there's going to be a VIP tier, which will be a little more expensive than your regular $9.99 tier. You will have the $9.99 tier, and then you'll either have a really cheap tier or a free tier, which will give you some of the content, but you won't have access to the pay-per-views, you won't have access to... It's almost like having... Like when you get a trial for a product, you don't get all the features, but you do get a taste of it to try and get you to sign up to the $9.99 tier or the $14.99 tier. It'll be interesting to see whether the VIP tier has stuff like Progress and Evolve on, with all the working relationships they've set up.
Possibly. Let's be fair though, like if you get the network, like really what you want it for, sadly, is the old stuff. Like if I don't have the network anymore.
Well, you say
but
that,
if I did, I'd be watching the old Nitros, the old Raws, the old NWA, WCW stuff. That's what I'd be interested in.
That probably makes up the bulk of what I watch on the network, but we've got to understand at the same time that when it comes to what is viewed on a weekly or a monthly basis, the pay-per-views are always by far and away the strongest and most watched thing on the network. Yeah. That is still the major draw for people. So realistically, that's a worse thing for the company because they are struggling to get people excited about their TV show. They're struggling to get people excited about their pay-per-views. So that is going to hurt your subscriber pool. Like, if the reason people wanted the network was because they wanted to go back and watch old Nitros or old Raws, the network would probably do really well.
Yeah, I agree.
Because
that's
you know what content
there.
you're buying. With
it's good.
The pay-per-views being the biggest draw is problematic in the sense that when you're not putting on a good product, your subscriber base will go down. So it'll be interesting to see what they do going forward with the WWE Network. But we will move on now to Viceland, which has officially announced that The Dark Side of the Ring will have a season 2.
And
some interesting episodes going to be in there.
There's one in particular that's going to be
the Benoit one.
It's going to be a difficult watch because we don't really talk about Benoit very much on this podcast. I don't know, we don't need to because it's obviously not a current topic. But like Chris Benoit was one of my favorite wrestlers when I was younger. But I find it, I don't watch him. I don't watch many of his matches anymore because I find it quite difficult. It's not like watching Eddie.
Yeah.
Like when I watch Eddie matches, I feel happy watching Eddie, but I have that tinge of sadness. And obviously, what happened to Eddie, but it doesn't affect me in terms of watching the match. With Benoit, it's obviously very different. It's very different for me. It's hard for me to separate it. I
was never a massive Benoit fan.
Yeah, I know. I liked him more than you,
but I don't have the same problem with you of going back and watching his matches. Usually, There is one match I remember watching a couple of years ago, which was Benoit versus Jericho at I believe it's the Rumble in like 2000.
Is it where he
2001.
won't let go of the crossface?
No, it's the one where he does like a suicide dive to the outside and he gets absolutely walloped with the steel chair.
I know which one you mean.
I remember watching that, and that's the first time I'd felt like severely uncomfortable watching a Benoit match
because of the brain trauma.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it is going to be a documentary, and you know what it is like. I feel like Viceland kind of had to do it. It is one of the biggest stories in the history of pro wrestling. If you're going to do a series of documentaries on the dark side of the ring, that's literally the title of the series.
Has they done one on the Von Erichs?
Yes, that was in the first season.
I'll have to catch that
one
because
is really good.
That to me, the Von Erichs is the most tragic story.
I don't know whether it still is, but it was on YouTube.
Yeah.
That's where I watched it. I think it was a really, really good episode. A lot of them were really good. There was a couple that I wasn't overly fond of, but most of the first season was really good. So hopefully they title it with some kind of decorum and respect. But it's something that does need to be talked about if you're going to do a series like this.
I wonder who's going to be involved in it. Like I wonder if like Jericho will be involved.
Surely will have to be involved.
Yeah.
You would assume like there's not going to be. I wonder if Meltzer will be involved because there's probably not many people that know more about the story
what happened and everything
than him.
Yeah,
I don't know
quite
who will
possibly
be involved.
We'll see.
But with that, we have to move on to another sad story. So Jimmy Uso got a DUI the other day. Lots of details have emerged. Help. Yeah, he does need help, doesn't he?
Yeah.
A lot of details have emerged. Supposedly, he was obviously over the limit, hence the DUI. But apparently, he was traveling at over 80 miles an hour, and
alcohol smell in the car. Apparently.
Yeah. He appeared to be unsteady. Was the
apparently
report said
like
when he got out of the
swerving
car,
lanes and things like that. It just sounds like he's been obviously drinking and driving, which is not a smart thing to do.
No, and WWE released a statement saying that Jonathan Fatu, which is Jimmy Uso's real name, is responsible for his own personal actions. And if they're going to release a statement like that, that's a pure PR move. I don't really care one way or the other what they say about that, but I do hope that they are taking this seriously and that they are trying to
ensure he gets some support.
Yeah, because he clearly has some kind of issue. And the problem is he's going to end up hurting himself, which would be sad, or somebody else, which would be even worse.
Yeah.
And that's just not acceptable. So they need to get him some help.
Yeah, it's very different to like the 1980s, isn't it? When you'd have wrestlers doing stuff like this and it wouldn't be talked about because there was no internet, no nothing. You wouldn't find out Jake the Snake doing something stupid or something like that. Now it goes all over the internet and everyone knows. And not only does it impact his life, but it impacts the company, so the company as a whole will not want this, and they need to really make sure that he's okay. And if he needs some time away from the ring or something like that, then that would be something that I think everyone would support to make sure that he's okay.
And with that, we move on to Monday Night Raw. And we open with a segment that, in retrospect, is kind of uncomfortable. So we opened with John Cena. He got a great reaction. He joked about the crowd actually liking him tonight and talked about all the guests we would see. He said he couldn't miss this because WWE is his home, which was kind of a theme of the show, talking about WWE as a home and a family and stuff like that. And then the Usos arrive, and they don't want sort of Fruity Pebble John Cena. They want the Doctor of Thugonomics. Cena tries to leave, but the Usos say they don't want the guy that left for the movie biz. So Cena busts on them for being arrested, which...
awkward.
Yeah. He then goes to leave, and they bring out Rikishi. So he also refuses to allow Cena to leave, and they basically are about to do the dance routine, and the Revival come out, and are for some reason joined by Devon Dudley. I don't really understand why,
no,
but that was what happened. So Jimmy Hart and Hulk Hogan were backstage, and Hogan wants to fight somebody and tells Jimmy to pick somebody for him to fight, but that Jimmy must have just forgot because Hogan didn't end up fighting anyone. So,
Hogan can't fight anybody.
And then
Hogan's not physically capable anymore.
Yeah. Booker T joined the commentary desk for the next match, which was the Usos versus the Revival.
Before we continue, do you still find it incredibly uncomfortable that Hogan's just on TV again?
Yeah.
I still find it very strange in how it's just okay purely because of the death of Mean Gene.
Yeah.
Like, I just find it uncomfortable that they use that as so quickly as an excuse to get him back on TV.
Anyway, the Usos versus the Revival. This was a pretty good match. It was just your bog standard tag, really. It broke down, and then Jay hit a Samoan drop. He hit an enziguri and then a top rope crossbody, but Wilder rolled him up for 2. Everybody flew to the floor. Devon and Rikishi came face to face on the outside, and then Jay super kicked Dawson and then Dash, and then the big splash got the win for the Usos. So definitely setting up them versus the Revival at SummerSlam. It was there. It didn't offend me.
Yeah, same.
These two teams are capable of a lot more, though.
Yeah, I agree. It was fine, and there was nothing bad about it. The only thing I'll say is, do you not feel like you've seen this match about 25 times lately?
This is what they do with their tag division, though.
Like, they have one feud that goes on forever.
One feud that goes on forever.
Like, do you know why? Because they don't actually have, like, divisions. Look what happened to the women's tag team division. Like, they don't really have...
That's a completely different story.
Yeah, but they don't really have tag divisions. They just have people that they just chuck together for a feud for a few months.
I remember the New Day and the Usos had a critically acclaimed Hell in a Cell match.
Their feud was great.
I did not care about in the slightest, because I felt like at that point when they went into that match, they'd been feuding for at least 75 years in my brain.
It had been about 6 months though, hadn't it?
I think it might have even been longer than
like,
that.
It was felt a long time.
A long feud, and it was just like...
And it was good, but it went too long.
Yeah, and the match probably was really good, and that was why it received such critical acclaim, but I just looked at it and went, I've seen this match 1,000 times, why am I seeing it again?
Yeah, putting it in a cage isn't going to make much difference to me.
So anyway, we see Alicia Fox backstage. She's with Dana Brooke and Caitlin, and then Tori Wilson tips up. Santino arrives, and then just in 2019, I found the segment really, really uncomfortable as he got the Cobra out and started, like, touching the women. It was just really...
Why? What do you think the Cobra referred to?
It was just really because they didn't look comfortable and I wasn't comfortable. It was just, I didn't like this segment at all.
Yeah, it was kind of thing that they were doing like 2003 when they were then really out of touch and still trying to do Attitude Era type stuff.
So Drew arrives and then just laughs at them and leaves. And then Rude Interviewer talks with Truth and Carmella. Truth talks about defending the title at Comic-Con against the Hurricane and Drake Maverick. And then Drake's wife arrives and says Truth has ruined her marriage and Drake's life, which allows Drake to roll up Truth to win the title. And then the Godfather arrives, and he can't say Ho Train, so the crowd has to say it for him. And then Rude Interviewer dances with him, and it was just, this was weird. I like the Truth and Maverick stuff, and Maverick's wife kind of...
Turning heel.
Yeah, I was all about that.
One thing I'm going to say is... I'm sure you will all notice that we have not actually booked
the 24/7 thing, yeah.
But I think part of it is, on my part, I am actually starting to find it moderately entertaining now.
There's still misses.
But on the whole, I actually find it... So I don't think we need to rebook it on the whole, because I find it moderately entertaining now.
Yeah, generally, I think the 24/7 stuff's usually the best thing on the shows.
Yeah, I agree. I'm not sure that's a compliment, but on the whole, I agree with you. I don't think we need to rebook it anymore because it is just actually, it's okay.
So then we were meant to have Drew versus Cedric, but Drew just absolutely brutalizes Cedric before the match even takes place.
Hey, where did that push go?
He hit the inverted Alabama slam onto the apron, and like I think their thinking was, well, we can't have Cedric lose, which is interesting for them because they love a bit of 50-50 booking, but like, if your idea is we need to protect Cedric, so we can't have him lose,
so we'll get him have his arse handed to him.
He just looked like such a geek. He just got absolutely destroyed.
Yeah,
I don't get it.
It doesn't make you look strong if you don't lose, but you actually get like the ever-loving daylights beaten out of you. Like, they just don't understand, do they? I know I'm going over old stuff here, but like, they just don't understand how to make anyone look good anymore. Certainly a babyface. They have no idea how to make a babyface look good. When was the last time they built a babyface genuinely well on their own?
Intentionally?
Yeah. Because Shield were heel, so that doesn't count.
Right.
Like, they got over based on being heels.
Brian
wasn't there. Like, that wasn't their fault.
I would say... It is Brian, but not that part of Brian's run.
The weak link
Brian run.
Yeah.
Because they turned him babyface, and his ascent to being a contender, because they planned on having him face Cena at SummerSlam. That was not a thing that was forced upon them.
No,
and they planned on having him win the title. But then, obviously, they were going to have the Randy Cash in, and then they were just going to move away from Bryan, and he was going to be an upper card guy, but not a main eventer.
Yeah,
a
B+ player.
But that was, yeah, essentially.
Basically.
But that was the last time they probably built a babyface really, really well.
Yeah, because Weak Link Bryan proving himself week in, week out was brilliant.
Defeating the Shield.
And it carried...
I remember that. I wish they hadn't done it on a random SmackDown that nobody watched. But I remember, I think it was Bryan, Kane and Orton, I think was the team that won. And they beat the Shield and give the Shield their first ever loss.
Yeah, but he carried Raw for weeks and weeks, Bryan. He carried Raw. Bryan carried Raw for about a year. Yeah,
until he got injured, sadly.
Yeah, but yeah, I agree. That's the last. When was that though? Like 2013.
2013. It's SummerSlam 2013.
It's been 6 years since they last built a babyface.
That's the first one that jumps to mind. There may have been somebody in the intervening 6 years that they built well, but
not someone that's main event level though,
no.
that I can think of.
Not that I can think of.
No.
So we see Drake backstage. He gets freaked out by the Boogeyman, and then Pat Patterson arrives and wins the 24/7 championship.
Yes,
and I popped.
So did I.
Yeah, he's looking old.
The greatest hardcore title segment of all time. Yeah. Pat Patterson and Gerald Briscoe.
Well, Jerry got his revenge for that segment.
He did.
Later on. We'll get to that, though. So Christian joins commentary, and I was sad that of all the cameos we had tonight, Christian had to be on commentary. Like, could we not have done a segment with Christian?
I know. Like
we'll get to how...
They could have done like the Peep Show.
Yeah, we'll get to how they used the legends on this show later, because I need to discuss that in detail.
Also, I've just realised, like we're saying about Pat Patterson and Gerald Briscoe. Like, hey, like, people say that WWE do not do long-term booking. Like,
that segment was
20 years in the making.
19.
Oh, 19, sorry.
19.
All right.
Almost exactly 19, because I believe it was like June.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Long-term storytelling.
Next up, the Viking Raiders versus Hawkins and Ryder. So you got your wish. The Viking Raiders are no longer just squashing no-name jobbers.
Now they're
squashing people who are actually on the roster.
And used to be tag team champions.
Yes. Hawkins in this match, I'm pretty sure we saw a decapitation take place.
Yeah, I hope he's okay.
He got lariated halfway to hell, and then eventually Thor's hammer finished things. This was enjoyable, as all Viking Raiders matches are at the minute, because they just are allowed to go out there and annihilate people, and it's fun.
Yeah, I feel like Usos are probably going to beat Revival at SummerSlam, and then we'll get the Usos against
the Viking Raiders
moving forward. But then again, I'd like them to turn the Viking Raiders babyface. I think they're better babyface.
To be honest, I think if they keep doing this squash thing, they will get over. This is how Ryback ended up turning himself babyface, was through the squash streak.
And to be honest, there's a good chance that even if Usos were penciled in to win the title, they now will not be.
That is a good point, actually. I didn't think about that. So we see there's like a Legends room backstage where all the Legends are sort of together. And then we see Mike Kanellis, who is with Eve Torres and Eric Bischoff, and then Maria tips up and she buries him, and then Ron Simmons is so appalled at how little of a man Mike is in storyline that he can't just deliver his usual damn. He has to get Jimmy Hart's megaphone so he can scream damn through a megaphone into Mike's face. Like,
can you say burial?
No,
this is the worst I've ever seen a wrestler buried.
When we talk about burials from now on, we may need to come up with a different word for it, because I don't think you can't call what Mike Kanellis is having done to him at the minute a burial, and call anything else a burial, because nothing else is going to compare.
This is like about the golden shovel.
Yeah,
like this is not. It's like the diamond shovel. Like, it's horrendous. Like,
pretty sure Tessa's not involved in booking this angle.
It's undeniable.
Yeah.
Is this the most tasteless angle of the year?
I wouldn't say it's tasteless. It's just
moronic.
Yeah, I was going to use a word I can't say on this show.
Why take someone?
It's just rubbish.
And just make, like, I don't like Kanellis. I really don't. But, like, I really don't want to see this done to his career. Like, why take someone who does have some value? Like, I would never say that he has no value at all as a wrestler or a character or a manager, possibly, or anything like that. He can do things. He can talk.
I kind of liked him and Matt Taven as a tag team in the Kingdom, I guess. That's probably the nicest thing I can say about him.
Yeah, I just don't understand deliberately devaluing someone.
No, it doesn't make any sense.
This is very Heyman, though, isn't it?
It doesn't get anybody over, does it? That's the problem.
No.
Anyway, we see the club. I'm going to bury the next segment as well.
Feel free.
We see the club backstage. So they put themselves over, and they are going by the OC now, the original club. And Styles
Right.
promises to send Seth a message tonight. Now,
T-shirt's really cool. I'll say that first.
yeah,
The T-shirt's
true. I totally
really cool.
agree with
like,
that.
When I looked at that, I was like, man, that is like almost as cool as the original Bullet. Well, not the original, but the actual Bullet Club T-shirt.
Yeah. But do they think we're idiots? Like, honestly, they had, like, I felt like a 4-year-old the way AJ Gallows and Anderson were explaining to me what the OC meant, as if I couldn't work it out.
At first, I thought they were just massive fans of the old TV show.
Well, I wouldn't blame them for that.
And I loved the OC.
As long as we were only talking season 1, because it kind of went off a cliff after
two
that.
was, but either way, like,
not what we're here for, Jonathan.
Either way, yeah. But it was very strange, very not confusing, but very, very stupid, and it was patronising. It was so patronising.
I tell you what, if in 3 years the OC are on and this company has continued its downward trajectory and we're basically falling off a cliff, maybe we can have where Marissa shoots Ryan's brother moment, and it'll just go down in history as one of the worst things in the history of TV.
That was bad.
Yeah, that was a stretch. There was
a bit where it got a bit weird.
Yeah,
and then Marissa's not liking boys bit as well, and
although that was the first time I ever saw Olivia Wilde in anything, and she's an amazing actress. So
let's move on.
Anyway,
I feel like we've got off topic here.
We have slightly.
Either way, the segment was weird. And
it was weird.
And the main point I'll say is, I think we've forgotten to actually analyse it that much, is they just didn't talk naturally either. Like, it came across really, really unnatural. Yeah. And the big thing about the Bullet Club was that they should always just be goofy, cool heels. Like, that's what they are.
Yeah. So next up, we saw Jerry Briscoe with the 24/7 title. We didn't actually see him win it. It was kind of a phantom title change, which Pat Patterson knows a lot about, if you know anything about Rio de Janeiro anyway. But he had won the 24/7 title, but then Kelly appears, greets him, says, it's so good to see you, and then low blows him, turns heel, and wins the 24/7 championship.
She's always been a heel to me.
Well, yes. Well, I had to watch her matches.
Because she couldn't wrestle.
Yeah. We then see Samoa Joe. He introduces himself and says he's here to point out an atrocity. We shouldn't be celebrating plagues like Raw Reunion, shows like this where the fans' addiction to nostalgia are embraced. You could have seen him doing what he does best, but instead we get the Usos out here with their daddy spitting rhymes with John Cena. Roman Reigns arrives and he heads down to the ring. He tells Joe that if he has something to say about his family, he can say it to his face.
Oh, God.
Joe says that he already said it.
Oh, dear God. I just hate Roman's, superhero reaction to everything. I fight for what's right. No, you will not say anything about my family.
Fight for what's right.
Yeah. It does come across that way a little bit, like Roman's just got this family center in the back. No, you said something about a member of my family, even though I'm member of one of the biggest families in the world, it would appear.
So anyway, Roman says you know what happens next, and they brawl. Joe rakes the eyes and sends Roman at the post. He works him over for a while, and then Roman eventually Superman punches him to the floor. Roman wants a match, basically, but Joe says not tonight, not for these people. But Roman calls him a coward, and Joe says, you got the match. Now, I enjoyed this. I know what you're saying about the superhero stuff, but I enjoyed the segment. Just the idea of Roman and Joe, I don't think is ever a bad idea, because they really complement each other, both in the way they sort of work on the mic and the way they work in the ring. I was just sad it was sort of sandwiched in the middle of this show and seemed totally inconsequential, because why would you care about these guys? Like, we've got a bunch of legends here. That's the only reason you're watching this show, right?
Totally agree.
You know what I mean? Like, build your current roster. Anyway, the match was short. It was good for what it was, but it could have done with it being longer. Joe dominated for quite a while. He then went for the Coquina clutch, but Reigns dumped him and then hit the spear for the win. Like I say, good for the time it got, but not anything to write home about.
It was fine. A bit more time, they could have done something really good.
They could have, yeah.
But, we had to spend more time with the old guys.
Yeah, the guys that are the future of the company.
Priorities, Vince. Yes. Priorities.
So next up we had Miz TV. Seth Rollins was the guest this week. Miz hyped him as Brock's SummerSlam challenger. And then we saw Brock cashing in the Money in the Bank contract to win the championship. Rollins makes fun of how Brock looks. He puts Brock over as a worker, but he doesn't want to be Brock. Paul Heyman then tips up and says he's got a dose of reality for Rollins. Brock doesn't want to be like Rollins and tells Rollins not to cry about the cash-in. Rollins says it took Brock 4 years to return the favour, and Heyman enters the arena. Rollins cuts him off and says Heyman can talk the talk, but he may have to walk the walk, and he threatens to stomp his head in. So Heyman runs away. For 20 years, Heyman has been putting Brock over, but Rollins thinks he's just a man, and any man can lose. And at SummerSlam, Brock will lose. But as for tonight, he doesn't take weeks off like Brock, so he's ready for AJ Styles. It was a good fired promo from Rollins. I just don't really care.
Yeah, this whole thing of like Rollins feeling like Lesnar can be beaten would probably be a lot better if he hadn't cheated outright to win at WrestleMania.
It would also probably be better if he hadn't actually already beaten him.
Yeah, like if it was one of those things where like he was, you know, the only guy at the moment on the roster who had beaten Lesnar fair and square, that would actually be a really cool story to tell going into SummerSlam, because it'd be like, hey, like, yeah, you know what, people have pushed Lesnar, but Rollins is the only guy that's beaten him that we've currently got. Like, that would be a really good story, but they have no idea how to tell long-term stories.
The one thing I did like about this segment was the fact that they finally referenced that Brock cashing in on Rollins was exactly what Rollins did to Brock 4 years ago. Like, that is a huge tenet of this storyline, and they've just not mentioned it at all, so far as I'm aware, until now. So I was glad that it actually was brought up.
Yeah, but it's like they've just gone like, yeah, they did the same thing, didn't they? It's like they've just realised it.
So Sammy interrupts Rude Interviewer trying to interview legends and mocks the whole reunion thing. He wants them to go home, but Rhea tips up and defends the legends, and Kurt Angle arrives and proposes they settle it in the ring. Kelly meets with Candice Michelle and then Naomi and Melina. Melina is in a referee shirt, so how Kelly didn't see this coming, I don't know. But Candice attacks her and wins the title. And then Medusa attacks her and chokes her out, and Melina doesn't want to ring the bell, but she does, because Candice is passing out. Are Melina and Candice known like friends? Like, do they have some kind of relationship? I don't remember. I did stop watching briefly in the mid-2000s. So,
because Melina was basically like the main. She carried the division really post. Her and Mickey carried the division post. Trish and Lita retiring.
Yeah. So anyway, Medusa rambles on about things, and then Coach joins commentary. Next up, we had Rhea versus Sammy. Yeah, at this point, I did feel like muting. I didn't, but I did feel like muting.
This show did not start off well, but it's fallen off a cliff, isn't it?
So they have a match for a while, but I'm just going to skip to where anything of note happens. Zayn's in position for the 619, but he bails and wants to leave, but then RVD tips up and stops him, and then Sergeant Slaughter follows, and Hurricane and Kurt Angle, and they chase Sammy back to the ring, and then Rhea hits the 619 and the top rope splash for the win. Okay.
This happened. Yeah. It really interesting that Impact were okay with RVD.
I think he's on a pay-per appearance deal. I don't think he's actually under contract with them. That
officially would make sense.
I'm not 100% sure on that, but I don't think they have any say on where he tips up. But do you know what?
Either way,
nowadays I think Impact would be quite cool with it, to be honest, anyway, with the way they're trying to operate. I think they would have been fine with it, even if he had been under contract. They might have tried to get something back from WWE, but... Yeah, similar to when they let Flair appear at the Hall of Fame in 2013, 2012, and they got Christian at Slammiversary.
Yeah, they have very much changed their outlook in terms of what they are, and they're being that company is really being run
quite well at the minute,
and booked really well, and I think we'll talk about it a bit more.
Wouldn't it be, it would make me sad, but wouldn't it be the ultimate sort of swerve if for years they've been booked and ran appallingly and somehow survived, but right now they're struggling to find a TV deal when they're actually being booked really well? And imagine if this was the time that they actually did die. It would be the most TNA thing of all time.
It would, but I'd be really sad because what? At the moment it's other than 205 Live and NXT, it's like one of my favourite TV shows.
Totally agree.
Everything they do is really good.
Fully agree. So Ric Flair arrives, and did you notice he looked like he bladed in the limo? That
would make sense, wouldn't it?
It's just
to be fair, I think Flair's bladed so much that eventually every now and then one of the old ones will just pop open.
Maybe Arn just asked him what film he wanted to watch.
Well, what is Blade? It's his favourite film.
It's my favourite joke of all time.
Yeah. Hey Rick, you watch a film? Yeah, which one? Blade. Oh, god damn it, Rick.
So
all these for goodies.
The Street Profits are backstage, and they joke about RVD liking weed. And then Dawkins...
PG.
Yeah. Dawkins adds that Mark Henry, Kelly, Ric Flair, and the Boogeyman were there. Godfather calls Dawkins as Ford looks sad. Like, this was just there. Like, I still don't get the point of the Street Profits. They are entertaining. Like, we say this seemingly every podcast. They're entertaining. I just don't get why.
Neither do I. It's getting quite strange.
Yeah. So Medusa then wants to throw the 24/7 title in the bin. Like,
this was a reference that they needed to make. Like, oh.
But Ted DiBiase arrives, and everybody's got a prize for the $1 Million Man. So you then, like, how this is long-term storytelling as well. How long is Ted DiBiase trying to purchase a title?
Yeah,
because what was the Saturday night's main event?
I think Saturday night's main event. But the best thing is that it's happened, and it's the 24/7 title he's bought, and he also bought it when he literally could have picked it out of the trash can.
Mm-hmm. Why didn't you just let it put it in there?
WCW style.
Yeah. Anyway, so
Wrestling's
Jerry Lawler joins commentary, and you know what? King was actually quite good on commentary for the next match.
I heard a lot of people saying that King was probably the best commentator all show.
I would probably agree with that.
Like, imagine that. And don't get me wrong, I've always loved Jerry the King Lawler. I think he's the greatest heel commentator of all time.
Yeah, but for a long time I despised his commentary.
But for a while he became awful.
From like 2004 to like 2014.
He just became so... No, I'd push it a little bit further. Like, so I think he was good during... Like, he sometimes made Hunter's Reign of Terror better.
It was. I remember it was after the feud him and JR had with Al Snow and Jonathan Coachman. I remember that's when Jerry started to slip. But I don't know when that was.
I loved his brief in-ring run. His brief feud with Punk.
I liked his feud with Miz. Like, of all things.
Yeah.
Like, I quite liked. Like, do you remember the ladder match him and Miz had? I thought that was quite a good match.
Vaguely, I prefer the cage match with Punk.
So do I. That was really
awesome. Punk's the start of Punk's heel run, which was brilliant.
So anyway, next up we had AJ versus Seth. So Gallows and Anderson are at ringside, and there is just a ton of interference in here, like just a ton of interference. So this leads to Triple H and HBK arriving to even the odds, which was another way to get out of a sort of wrestling during commercial breaks thing. But when we get back from the break, AJ's in control, but Rollins then hits a sling blade, he hits the blockbuster and the springboard knee, he hits a super kick and then looks for the blackout, but the OC hit the ring and DX do as well, and it ends in a DQ, and it was just kind of awful, and I didn't like, how can you make a Seth Rollins AJ Styles match not fun?
I hated this. I think it sucked. I think they made the OC look stupid as well.
So
like, they should be doing their absolute damnedest to build up that group at the moment, and they're not. So
the worst part was the post match. So the brawl, and the OC is sent packing. They get chairs, but Road Dogg and X-Pac arrive with Hall and Nash. Dogg says they are the OGs, the clique. He tells them to get to stepping, and the OC leaves, and Seth gets to give the "if you're not down with that" kind of line, which I guess was cool for Seth, but
it came across as rubbish. It came across like, hey, you remember the cool stuff we used to do?
Remember when we actually had good people? Because who cares about these losers we've got nowadays?
Yeah, can they just go so we can have the old guys? Yeah. This has become so bad.
We get another.
Like, this is getting. It's like I've hated the part-timer thing for so long, but it's getting really bad.
So we get another Phantom title change as Drake wins the title from DiBiase in the limo, and then the Geeks chase him away from his wife, and then Mick Foley is out. Drake runs through the crowd and gets chased by the Geeks, and then Foley vows to win the title later tonight and puts over his history on Raw. He shares his favourite moment, which was him winning the championship, and then Bray Wyatt arrives and lays out Foley with the mandible claw. I'd quite like it if Bray starts using that.
So would I. I think it'd be a really cool move for him, actually, yeah. I think it's a great move in general. Like, I like Sue Young using it in TNA.
You totally agree. So a moment of bliss is next. Nikki is with Alexa, and they bring out Becky Lynch. Alexa asks her about facing Natalya at SummerSlam, and then Natty tips up. Natty says if Becky has something to say, she can say it to her face. A lot of people have been listening to Alex Riley's theme recently. We see footage of last week's promo, and Natalya talks about Becky's lack of friendship after 14 years. Batista reference, just in case you didn't get that one. Becky says Natalya tried to undercut her by training Ronda, but she took her scalp at Mania, and then they brawl. Like, I guess this was okay, but it was like they were finding reasons why these two don't like each other. Do you know what I mean? Rather than it feeling natural that they didn't like each other.
They built one. They built one last week. Like, they actually made it quite clear that there's reasons why. Like, it's a competitive thing.
Which would be fine.
Yeah.
They should just do that.
They can't do feuds based on competition anymore though. Like they used to. Like what happened to I think I'm better than you. No, I think I'm better than you.
Got to tell stories. So
That is a story.
No, it's not. No, it's not enough of a story for Vince.
Yeah, we've got to include Katie Vick.
Yeah. So Drake tries to escape, but Truth pins him to win back the championship and hops in the limo with Drake's wife. So Drake not only lost the title, but he managed to lose his wife. And is that kidnapping technically that R-Truth has done? He's definitely stolen Drake's vehicle.
Yes.
I mean, it was a limo. Which was it? Flair's limo? Was it DiBiase's limo? Was it Drake's limo? I don't know. Anyway,
Strange.
not the point. So then we got Braun Strowman versus a jobber. He hit a chokeslam for the win.
Murder happened, yeah.
Yes. And then we ended the show with Ric Flair, who came out and wasn't allowed to talk. And then Hulk Hogan, who came out and cut a promo saying he was happy to be in Tampa, thanked all the fans. And then Steve Austin arrived. And all the legends are on the stage at this point. He gets in the ring and he just cuts a typical Austin promo. I think he may have had a few beers before the show because he wasn't always massively coherent in what he was saying.
You're joking.
Yeah. But
the Texas rattlesnake drinking.
yes.
What? No.
He talked about how he'd never hung with Hulk before, but apparently he recorded a podcast with him the night before, and then he hung out with Flair, and they were drinking until so long in the morning.
That seemed... Ric Flair drinking as well. What's happened to these professional wrestlers? They used to be so, like, upstanding members of the community.
And then he bumped into Ron Simmons in a lift, and they had a hug for like 10 seconds, and all this stuff. And then he invites everybody down to the ring for a drink, and they have a bit of a beer bash. And then I think he thought they were off the air.
What?
Yeah, well, he got that as well.
What?
But I think he thought they were off the air.
What?
But stop it,
I'm
because
gonna
I'm
stop
not,
it now.
I'm not
'Cause
Austin. I'm getting flustered.
Yeah, and you're doing the thing that everyone starts doing, where you start speaking in stutters,
What?
so that you can leave room
What?
for the whats. What?
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 Anyway, let's keep going. So, Austin, I think, thought they were off the air, and then started talking. It was really weird. He said something about... He started telling a story that he'd never told before about him and Jerry Briscoe in South Africa doing illegal stuff. He dropped a swear word in there, which we can't repeat on this podcast. And then he just started talking about how he loved this place, and all of a sudden these music just started playing, and he was like, and that's the bottom line, which he'd already said, and it was just weird. It's a weird way it ended, but the one thing I will say is even a semi-drunk Stone Cold Steve Austin shows how they have no stars these days, because that guy just came across as such a superstar.
He always
and
has.
Nobody else on the show tonight outside of the legends, who of the actual regular roster members, who felt like a star tonight.
No one, but they don't have stars. They haven't had stars for a long time. Like the last star they built, and I'm saying star because he kind of was Cena.
Agreed.
Cena was a
Totally agreed.
star. Since then, they've not built anyone to that point. But I think that's by design. Like Vince doesn't want to do that anymore in case someone
can't,
leaves.
Like they need to build stars. They really do.
Yeah.
Because otherwise they're really going to struggle. Because you can only keep bringing back these old people for so long. And can we just talk about the fact that they could have used tonight, like, because of what they'd advertised, it was always going to draw a big rating, and it didn't draw as big a rating as I expected. We'll get to that in a second, but it did draw their biggest rating of the year.
Mm-hmm. Short term.
Yeah, but there's nothing wrong with doing that. But use the legends to put over your new guys.
So, like, what I would have done, for example, right, is if, not with Austin, but with one of the old timers who's still, like, beloved, like, why couldn't the OC have come out and, like, beat the living daylights out of it? Like they did with Nexus, like when Nexus beat up Brett. Like that's exactly how to use all guys. Is
the only person I think that was used well tonight was Mick Foley, because having Bray take him out with the mandible claw and almost being like almost a passing of the torch in a really weird way. That was actually well done. If the whole show had stuff like that on, if the club had destroyed DX, that would have been great.
Yeah. Or if they just come out and annihilated Hogan. You
don't even have to have them though go over. Just have the old guys, the legends, put the new guys over. You could just have. Can you imagine if Hulk Hogan tipped up and bumped into, say, I know he wasn't on the show because of injury reasons, and I believe he was meant to be in Seth's role, but imagine if Hogan just bumped into Ricochet backstage and was just like,
I think
I think you're the best wrestler I've seen in the past 20 years. I think you're unbelievably talented.
Yeah.
And I can't wait to see you win the WWE title someday because I know that's in your future.
Yeah.
People watching would go, holy crap. I guess Ricochet is a superstar.
Mm-hmm.
Look what Hulk Hogan said that about him.
Yeah.
Like, but they didn't do any of that.
Or like if Ric Flair saw AJ or something and said like, how far he's come since the last time he saw him.
Yeah, well, let's not talk about.
No, you know what I mean though. Like,
let's not talk about TNA trying to make AJ Styles into Ric Flair,
mini Flair.
Yeah.
But it's so easy. Like, why can't they do? Why don't they get this anymore?
I don't know.
They're so desperate to treat the old guys as more important. Eventually, those old guys aren't going to be available anymore.
So Raw did draw.
Austin can't put anybody over.
No.
Anyway, sorry, go on.
Raw did draw its best rating of the year. They drew 3.09 million, which was better than the Raw After Mania, which did 2.92. That was the previous high from this year. It was the most watched episode since April the 23rd last year. Up 26% from last week and 11% from the same week last year.
What does that tell you, though? They haven't got draws anymore, but the old guys are still draws.
But still, like, would you, like, Raw 25, which was, January 2018, so you're talking about 18 months ago, did 4.53 million. So for your very peak when you bring everybody back and get people excited to see the old guys and all the legends, now your peak for that show has dropped to 1.5 million viewers in 18 months. That's not good.
But that's the company.
But yeah.
Remember, WWE has always been a draw. That was the whole point, right? We don't build draws anymore. We don't build stars because the company is the draw. Well, at the moment, the company appears to be not drawing as well. So what are you going to do, Vince? Like, you've now got to think, right, either I have to market my company so well in that my company can be a draw again, or I've got to realise this model is not working anymore. I have to build stars.
Yeah.
And I know what you know what the answer is. I know what the answer is. Vince has just got to realise it. It's obvious. Build stars.
So with that, we will move on to SmackDown Live. We opened with Xavier and Big E on commentary rather than Shawn Michaels, who wasn't on commentary at all this week. Kind of weird.
Yeah.
And then Shane McMahon arrives and gets a special announcement. He commented on the Raw reunion show and says he was glad Kevin Owens wasn't there. He claims Owens was hiding on social media and challenged Shane to a match at SummerSlam, and Shane has accepted that match and says that Kevin claimed if he loses he would quit, but we've heard all that before. And he rolls the footage of, when KO quit on Raw.
Yeah.
And then Shane makes fun of him for quitting and then says it will happen again, but this time he wants it in writing. So KO arrives and says that Shane is smart and says last year was the lowest point of his career, but that isn't who he is today, and he knew Shane would accept the challenge because he loves the spotlight. Kevin won't quit because he will beat the living hell out of Shane. He heads to the ring, but Shane stops him and books Kevin versus Reigns for later.
Fine. Like, I like what they're doing with Owens, so I've got no complaints so far.
So Shane meets with Elias and Drew. They just kiss up to him, and Shane makes Drew the special referee for Roman versus KO, and Elias the special guest timekeeper, and Shane will be the special guest ring announcer. And then we got Shinsuke Nakamura versus Apollo Crews. This was a ton of fun. You know how last week we said that's the best we've seen Apollo look since the last time he was in NXT when he worked against Kushida?
Yeah.
This was the best I think I've ever seen Apollo look on the main roster. Him and Shinsuke went out there for about 8 minutes and had a really, really good match. Like, super fun. Not like a 4.5 star match or anything, but it's super fun, and both guys came out of it looking good.
Yeah, we just need Apollo to get a little bit, get that character that he's never had. Because that's always been his problem. He can wrestle, but he has no discernible character.
Yeah. Nakamura basically countered after Apollo had went wild and hit the Kinshasa for the win. Really good stuff.
Yeah, good match.
And then he beat him down post-match and hit a Kinshasa on the floor. So I wonder whether this will be an Apollo-Shinsuke feud going forward. Wouldn't have a problem with that at all.
If they invest some time in Apollo and do some work in order to think about, like,
right,
what is your character, then I'd be fine with that.
And I don't think he's ready for the IC title yet. So if he is just a first defense for Shinsuke, I think that'll be fine.
A competitive loss.
Yeah. So Mandy and Sonya meet backstage, and this segment made me laugh so much because Mandy appears, walks up to Sonya and says, I've spoke to Shane. I've basically got the Iconics in trouble. I can't remember exactly what it was. She said that she'd seen them doing, but she'd basically told Shane on them. Shane had got annoyed and had awarded them a tag team title match next week. And if they win that match, they will get a tag team title match. Well,
huh?
Yeah. So Mandy clearly screwed up her lines. Basically, she was meaning to say that she got a match for next week, and if they win, they'll get a tag title match.
Yeah.
But she screwed it up, and honestly, the way they just looked at each other and they realised that Mandy had screwed up.
Oh, I've said the wrong thing here.
And they just hugged it. It was really funny. It was a screw-up score. It was rather entertaining.
Yes.
So we then got an Ali video package. He needs to rewrite his story to earn a WWE title shot. He got injured and forgotten about, but he will become WWE champion because he writes his own story. This is really good for him. It was typical Ali, you sat on a staircase with did he have a hoodie on, and it's darkness, and it was just all the stuff we liked about Ali in 205 Live.
Agreed. But you know what I'm going to say?
He needs to start.
It now needs to start. Yeah, like these promos are great, but he now needs to start going somewhere. Like he needs a match for SummerSlam. I think he has main event level potential. I really do.
Agreed.
I think he could be a star. They just need to go with him and book him properly. So they probably won't.
So next up we had Miz TV, and Shawn Michaels was his guest. He came out and he put over Raw Reunion, said that Seth was an honorary member of the clique now. Ugh. And then Dolph Ziggler arrived and insulted Shawn and says if he ends up like him, he wants somebody to put him out of his misery. Shawn tells him to speak, and Dolph says he used to idolise Shawn, but Shawn ruined it by coming back every chance he got, like last night. Dolph says that Shawn broke his heart when he came back and was embarrassing. Shawn admits that he doesn't disagree, and it was embarrassing, but what's more embarrassing is working your whole career to be a second-rate Shawn Michaels. He calls Michaels the second-rate Michaels, noting that he ruined his legacy. Miz dares him to do something already. He dares him again to do something, and Dolph ends up hitting Miz when he misses Shawn. Dolph superkicks Shawn. Miz runs him off and checks on Shawn. So I really liked the segment.
So did I.
In a vacuum, it's just the idea of what's the point of it.
Yeah, like Dolph needs direction, and this is the problem, right? This is what we said last time. Like I like Dolph. I've always liked Dolph as a wrestler. I've liked him as a promo, heel, babyface. I've always seen star potential in Dolph Ziggler. The problem is that I just literally can't see it anymore. I know it's there, but God knows if anyone can get it now. Like he had all the potential in the world, and it's just gone. And you know what? If this was 2012, I'd be like, "Oh my God, Dolph Shawn, awesome!" And now I'm like, "It'll be cool," but I have no desire to see it.
So next up, we had Charlotte versus Ember Moon. Bayley arrived early on, and Ember rolled Charlotte up for the win.
This happened,
but then Ember sort of rolled Bayley in, hit the Eclipse on both of them after the match and stood tall. So it was a fairly good way to build Ember up for a title shot. It was a bit of a fluky win against Charlotte, but she laid both of them out post-match and stood tall.
Yeah, I was fine with this.
So then Michael Cole joins commentary, and Kofi arrives and says he wants to face Randy Orton at SummerSlam. Can I just say as well, this was, I don't know whether it was mentioned here or elsewhere, or where I heard it, but Byron Saxton's father passed away, and that was why he wasn't on commentary this week, so our thoughts go out to Byron and the rest of his family.
Absolutely.
So Orton arrives and says that Kofi has history with him. They all chanted Kofi's name in MSG, but Orton kicked the living hell out of Kofi. He shows footage, and that was when Kofi was to make it to the main event, but that didn't happen because Orton held him back by using his influence. Kofi kept grinding and fighting to become the champion, but Orton says that he did hold Kofi back, but did him a favour because Kofi wasn't ready then, and he isn't ready now. Orton says he's been on top for 18 years. He only had to be Randy Orton, not do a fake accent or throw pancakes. He just wins in main events, and Kofi only got his shot due to him because Randy was the one who injured Ali. Kofi doesn't deserve the title, and Randy will take it from him when he wants. Orton accepts the SummerSlam match and promises to end the fairy tale. This was the best thing I've seen Randy Orton do
in ages.
Yeah,
I loved it.
For me, and I don't know whether you agree,
segment of the week.
Yeah,
I totally agree. Absolutely brilliant.
I loved
brilliant segment.
I loved how they interspliced the real life stuff. Yeah. It did have a bit of a shooty edge to it.
Stupid.
But not shooty to the point where you just go, everything else is fake, but what we're doing is real. It was just working real life things into the storyline, and I really like this.
They had chemistry back in 2009, was it?
2009 was the
feud, they had chemistry back then. They'll have chemistry now, and if Orton's motivated, this could be a really good match. This could be the best thing that Orton's done in ages. Yeah. I think I like Orton more than you, but this could be the best thing Orton has done in ages and ages.
So then we got Kofi versus Samoa Joe next, and this was an okay match. It didn't go massively long. In the end, he goes for Trouble in Paradise, but then Orton attacks for the DQ.
Yeah. Can we sort out what's going on with Samoa Joe, though, please? Like, can we find Joe some direction?
He got RKO'd after the match, and then Kofi hit Orton with Trouble in Paradise.
We just need to find... Joe needs some direction. Like, at this point, I'd turn Joe babyface. I think it's been too long. He's directionless as a heel now.
So Finn Balor is interviewed by Kayla Braxton, who asks him about all the things that have gone on, losing the IC title to Shinsuke and getting attacked by Bray Wyatt.
Balor can't act.
Yeah. Balor doesn't know how Wyatt's mind works, but the puppets, the attack on Foley last night, he can't explain any of it. Wyatt is more twisted than ever, but he won't back down, and he wants Bray at SummerSlam.
This promo was not good.
Wyatt appears on the screen as himself in the funhouse and says Balor is brave and inspiring. He and the puppets are fans, but not the Fiend. The Fiend is the one accepting the SummerSlam challenge, and the Fiend appears. Like, I know I say I don't care about Bray, but I really like.
Are you on board?
I really liked his part of this.
Are you on the bandwagon yet?
No,
because I'm getting close.
I'm looking at the bandwagon.
Yeah, because I'm getting close. I'm kind of like, you know what? It's getting over. Like, it is getting over. Bray's one of the most over people on both shows at the moment.
I liked his portion of this.
Yeah, but can we talk about Balor's?
Yeah, it wasn't good.
Like, he's made strides as a promo, but wow, like this was so unnatural.
Totally agree. So we then see Charlotte. She's offended she's being left off SummerSlam and says she demands to be at SummerSlam, where she proves she's the greatest of all time. So we do need to talk about this. So Charlotte versus Trish at SummerSlam. Like, that is kind of insane. What do you think Trish is going to be able to go like she could be 5? It's been a long time. When was the last time she actually worked a match? Did she work at the Evolution pay-per-view last year?
Yeah, I think she did. Did she tag with Lita?
Oh, yeah.
Against, she was going to face Alexa, and it was she was going to face Alexa, then Alexa got a concussion, so we were all really gutted for Alexa. So it was that. Yeah, obviously that was the last time that Trish worked. This could be brilliant, it could be awful, but either way, like, this will be a really cool moment.
I think
and
Charlotte,
Trish is awesome.
Like, Trish was awesome back in the day, and I think Charlotte's awesome enough now
to carry
that
her.
If Trish is still able to do
like 75% of what she was.
Yeah, it'll be a great match.
Yeah, and you know what? Trish always was good at psychology and getting how to work a match.
And that bit I don't
doesn't
think
go away.
Will have gone. So it's just whether our athleticism's there anymore, and I'm sure Charlotte will be able to work around it if it's not.
Yeah, and Trish had all the charisma in the world, so the crowd will love her.
Yeah, and it's in Toronto.
Yes, exactly.
So Roman Reigns versus Kevin Owens was our main event, technically. So, like we said earlier, Elias' timekeeper, Drew's the special referee, Shane's the special ring announcer. They lock up, work the ropes, and Drew breaks them up. And they lock up again, and Drew breaks them up again. He sort of screams at them, and then Roman attacks him and dumps him as Owens fights off Elias. The heels take control with the numbers game. They work over Roman, but Owens makes a save and super kicks both Drew and Elias. Roman hits a spear, and a stunner for Elias follows. Shane is rolled back in and eats the Superman punch and stunner, and the crowd chants for one more, so Kevin stuns Shane again. This was no match here, but a really good closing angle with the babyfaces standing tall and not like only sort of getting the better of the heels, but being smarter than them as well.
Yeah, which is rare.
Yeah.
Now I really like this. So that was really, really good end.
And KO promises afterwards that everyone will love the beating he gives Shane at SummerSlam. You know what?
Did you sense?
I loved SmackDown this week.
Did you sense a difference? Like, because this was Bischoff's first involvement. Like,
I don't know how much involvement he had, because we have been told he's going to be fed in slowly, but I thought
it was better, much better.
Yeah,
not great, yeah.
I thought
better.
it was. I thought,
but better.
This was a genuinely great SmackDown to me.
Like an 8 out of 10.
Yeah, that's what I would say.
Yeah, like I thought this was good. And if SmackDown's good again, then at least I'll have one of the two shows that I like watching. Because you know what, Heyman's Raw is yet to thrill me.
Yeah,
and it's
apart from the first show.
Yeah, but that's it. So both shows have had one good show really since we've had the switch over. But yeah, if you asked me which one I'd prefer at this point in time, like, I would never have said Bischoff's SmackDown.
Yeah. So with that, we will move on to the ratings. So for the second straight week, SmackDown posted its highest viewership total since the April 16 Superstar Shake-Up episode, as Tuesday night show averaged 2.16 million viewers, which was up 2% from last week. There was not as much carryover from Monday's big rating for Raw, as they only retained 69% of the Raw audience, but that was always going to be the case.
The legends weren't there.
Yeah, exactly. But it was interesting to see that they did continue on the sort of stream of good viewership from last week. So people must have tuned in and liked what they saw last week.
Yeah, hopefully we can keep going with this.
So talking of great shows, we now move on to NXT. So this week we opened with highlights from sort of last week's show, and then we had ACH under his new name of Jordan Miles versus Angel Garza in the second round of the tournament they're doing. ACH got the win after hitting a clothesline and a German. This was a really good, fast-paced. It was a very spotty match, but I enjoyed it a lot. It was much better than ACH's last match.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, sorry, Jordan Miles' last match. But I really like Angel Garza. I hope they do something with him.
So do I. I really see something there.
I've always liked Garza Jr. ever since I first saw him, and I think he's got a lot of talent, and I hope they use him well.
Agreed.
So Shane Thorne cuts a promo, insulted by this whole tournament and claiming he will break out all on his own. Johnny Gargano cuts a promo on facing Adam Cole in Toronto, and his stipulation for the match is a street fight. So we then got Bianca Belair versus Xia Li. Bianca won in a couple of minutes after the KOD. A good rebound win for Belair, and she showed more aggression like we talked about last time she squashed somebody. She showed a lot of aggression.
Mm-hmm.
Killian Dane cuts a promo on attacking Matt Riddle. It was only a glimpse, and he can't wait to show us everything he's capable of. And then we see earlier this week Mia Yim continuing her psychopathic breakdown as she once again jumped one of Shayna's friends, this time Jessamine Duke, at the PC and slammed a locker in her face the same way that she slammed the car door into Marina Shafir last week. So she's only got Shayna left to go to. And as much as I'm taking the mick and saying Mia's a total psychopath, I am, because she is coming across as quite psychopathic. She is slamming doors into people's faces and stuff. But I am really liking the build of this, the idea of her taking out the horsewomen en route to Shayna.
I think it's a really good angle. I've really enjoyed it.
So Velveteen arrives next and talks about how Nottingham having the title would being in hell. He heard that Roddy can go all night, but if he gets the experience he's asking for, the dream will be over. Roddy will learn that he's not big enough to ride this ride, but maybe there is someone who's big enough. He calls out whoever that is so he can experience him. Roddy comes out and says that you can see how scared Dream is of him because he's the most deserving challenger on this continent and he wants his shot to take over Toronto. The experience will die, and that's undisputed. And then things got really awesome because the Bruiserweights music hits and Pete Dunne comes out and Strong walks up to Dunne, who snaps his fingers, and Dunne stares at the title and Dream walks off. This could be awesome. I assume they're doing a three-way takeover Toronto.
Yes.
Awesome.
And obviously Regal's intimated that Dunne's going to be there for a while.
Yeah.
Which is good because he's done in NXT UK.
Yeah.
To be honest, he should be on the main roster.
Well, they did that. I thought they did that really well to keep it in logical because I think was it the next segment? Yeah, yes. It was the next segment. So literally straight after that, Strong met with Regal, who... Did he officially book the match? Because I didn't think he did, but in my notes I've wrote he booked the match.
Yeah.
So I assume he has.
Yeah, from what I've got down, there's going to be a triple threat in Toronto.
So, but what I liked was Regal said he talked with Johnny Saint and sort of got Dunne part of NXT for a while.
That he was going to, like an exchange.
Yeah, so I kind of like that. So next up we had Io versus Kacy Catanzaro. This didn't go very long. Io has been very violent at the start, and then Candice LeRae attacked her for the DQ. So Candice then hit an Enziguri and a Tope Suicida as she grabs a chair, but Io runs away. It's perfectly fine to continue the build to Io versus Candice.
Very, very, very much like heel Io so far.
So do I.
I'm surprised. I didn't think I'd like it this much.
Oh, I always thought I would. I love Io as a heel.
I always thought I was liked her as a babyface, but you know what? I'm much preferring her as a heel.
So Adam Cole complains about the unfair situation of adding Pete Dunne to the North American title match, claiming that NXT management, aka Mr. Reeks, is screwing over the Undisputed Era. He puts over Strong being able to win the title anyway, and the same goes for Fish and O'Reilly beating the Street Profits. As for his stipulation, he picks a straight-up wrestling match so that when he wins, Gargano can no longer beat Johnny Wrestling.
Oh,
I love Adam Cole.
That's awesome.
Beyond words, but whoever wrote this promo needs a raise tomorrow. Because
what a douchebag.
And the picking of the stipulation. Like, Adam Cole should really pick something like a street fight so that his brethren can get involved, you know, and he can use... But he's such a cocky, horrible piece of work that he doesn't want to pick something that actually benefits him.
He wants to belittle.
He wants to pick something that he's able to hold over Gargano.
Because he's just like a bully at school.
Yeah,
it's awesome. I love Adam Cole.
So next up we had Damian Priest versus Keith Lee. I was really intrigued at how they were going to sort of book this, and the way they did, I really enjoyed. So Priest basically kind of keeps using his power, and Keith Lee gets kind of upset and aggressive, and he stalks Priest, and then Priest hides behind the ref and hits the Cyclone Kick and the Reckoning for the win. So I felt like they were going to go with Lee being the heel, but then it turned out being Priest. I thought that was what they were going to do, was Lee was going to either win this by cheating, or this was going to be where he snapped because of obviously what he's been talking about, but actually Priest hiding behind the referee and then beating Lee. So it'll be interesting to see where they go forward with that. But it was a good main event, good way to end the show.
It was. I just thought that they were going to turn Keith Lee heel. I thought it was a natural thing to do, to be honest.
Me too. But it is what it is. That's what they've decided to do for the time being.
And we always trust NXT.
We do trust NXT. I thought this was a really good show.
Yeah, it was a not an out of this world NXT, but a good one.
Yeah, I will be interested. Do you think Undisputed Era walks out of Toronto with all the belts?
Oh,
Because I kind of feel like that might be where they go. Like, part of me thinks
the
Street Profits will retain,
yeah,
and part of me thinks that Velveteen will also retain. But there is also a part of me that thinks that it makes far too much sense for them to walk out with all the titles at this point.
And I also think that there's a possibility that would actually make sense. Imagine if the Undisputed Era were to somehow, imagine if Cole was to get involved in somehow screwing Velveteen out of the NXT North American title, because he's already said that he thinks it's unfair for Strong, right? And then you could then have Velveteen go for the NXT title, which I think he's ready for.
Because they've got to move, this has got to be the last Gargano Cole match.
Yeah.
As great as the feud's been, this has got to be the end.
Yeah, and to be fair, Cole's been ready for the main roster since he got there. So
all of Undisputed Era has been.
Yeah, so really, I would give them a run, maybe until Survivor Series, and then move them up.
I think you need to keep them separate from the club. So they should probably go to SmackDown when they do come up.
Agreed.
So anyway, we move on to what I think was probably the best show of the week.
205, yeah, 205 was awesome.
They were all, apart from Raw, good this week, but I think 205 is probably the best. So Drake comments on his actions last week, which as a GM were uncalled for. Kanellis can earn a cruiserweight title shot by fighting him next week in an unsanctioned match. I just have one complaint about this show, because I loved the show, but
how's the GM making an unsanctioned match?
It's not even that. The GM can make an unsanctioned match, but how can you have an unsanctioned match decide whether somebody gets a title shot or not?
Yeah, because in
it's
theory,
non-sanctioned,
an unsanctioned match does not exist.
It doesn't exist. It's not included in the results.
It never happened.
It never happened. So how do you get a title shot off the back of it? But I'm maybe being picky. We got a video package on Raul Mendoza, which was quite cool, and then we got Mendoza and Humberto Carrillo versus the Lucha House Party. Was that more improved for you this week?
That was much better, yes.
Thank you. So this was a really, really fun match. These guys obviously work really well together, as you would expect, because they all work a very similar style.
Mendoza's always been good as well. I feel like he should have been given more goals, really.
Yeah, totally agree. So Kalisto cut Mendoza off towards the end of the match, but got sent to the outside. Mendoza followed with a Tope Suicida. Metalik followed with a moonsault, but 8 feet. And then Carrillo hit the corkscrew splash for the win. I wouldn't mind seeing Mendoza and Carrillo working together more frequently.
No, neither would I. And I really would like to see if they build up that division a little bit more with a few more names. I really think cruiserweight tag titles would be awesome.
They would, because you've got quite a few good teams. As much as I think that I've been saying for ages the Lucha House Party should split up. If they were to make Metalik the single star and Kalisto and Dorado a tag team,
I'd like it as a group.
They'd be a good unit to be in a tag division. You've got the Singh brothers, who I'm not fond of, but they are a team. You've got Kendrick and Tozawa, who are a really fun team.
You could develop some kind of respect between Gallagher and Gable.
Yeah. Mendoza and Carrillo, obviously, as we've seen in this, are really good. So
they've always been good at pairings.
Yeah,
that's always been not so much they've got some good ones now, but really their really good run was when Murphy was champ, and you had there was loads of pairings all over the show. You had Tozawa and Kendrick,
Gallagher and
Buddy.
Gulak.
Yeah, and Buddy and Nice, there was just pairings all over the shows.
It was very New Japan for a while in the way it was kind of booked, in the sense that almost everybody was in a group.
Yeah.
Maybe the group would only be 2 people, but everybody was aligned with somebody else.
Yeah, it was really cleverly done for a long time, the booking of 205 Live. It still is now. The booking's still good.
So we get Oney Lorcan versus a Jobber next. He destroys him and hits a half and half suplex. He killed him.
All good.
It was fun.
Very much like Oney Lorcan at the moment.
So Gulak cut a promo on tonight's match, and I found out something in this promo that I did not know. Gulak trained Shane Strickland. I did
Yeah,
not know
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I didn't know that either.
So I assume that's legit because I haven't checked up on it because I
Yeah.
don't see why they would say it
I
if
believe
it
it
wasn't
is.
legit. But I had no idea Gulak trained. Isaiah Scott is his WWE name, but he didn't teach him everything. And Gulak isn't the same man now, and Scott still has a lot to learn. And that was our main event. And holy cow, how good was this match?
Oh man, it was good.
I don't think it was quite as good as Gable versus Gallagher from last week, but it was so good.
205 is having like a really steady
Stream.
run of really, really good matches this year.
Yeah. So basically, Gulak ended up winning the match. He was sort of in an arm bar, but then he attacked the hand to escape, hit some strikes, hit a cravat suplex, and then the sort of Argentine neck breaker, torture rack neck breaker, whatever you want to call it, got the win. I thoroughly enjoyed this. It was a hell of a match.
Great match, and
you know what? The crowd really got behind Shane Strickland.
Yeah, I if I was them, I'd keep him there.
Mm-hmm.
Because I really do think that 205 needs some adding to. I might look at booking it at some point. I always book the cruiserweights every now and then because I do think they need more names, and he'd be great in that division. He'd be really great. And you know what? Like, it was a great episode of 205 Live, and I love this show. There's a reason it's my favourite show, because every now and then you'll get an episode like this and a match like this that's just out of this world good.
So we'll move on with that to any of the business. And there's not much to talk about this week. We'd just like to give a shout out to Tegan Knox, who has returned to the ring following her injury. It's great to see her back. She returned at an NXT house show. I've always liked Tegan Knox. I've liked the
really good wrestler.
But
really good.
It's been so unlucky with injuries that now, even if I hadn't liked that, I'd just be rooting for her just because of what she's been through.
She could be like in the same, like she could be in like the sort of the title picture in NXT if things hadn't gone the way that they had.
Yeah. And the only other thing in any other business we need to talk about is just an interesting one. So MLW has formed a working relationship with Pro Wrestling
Noah. Yeah.
It's a really interesting one. I wonder who we will see come over from Noah to MLW, because they have got
I know who
a
I'd
weird
want.
promo, but what you mean, Katsuhiko Nakajima?
Well, yeah, no, but the main actually one I was thinking is I'd want Daisuke Harada. Daisuke Harada is arguably one of the best junior heavyweights in the world right now, which people don't know because he's from Pro Wrestling Noah.
You're more in the loop with Noah at the minute than I am, because I kind of drift back and forth with how much I follow Noah.
Yeah.
Would it be weird if they brought in Momono Seishun Tag as a team into MLW? Is there anything that would prevent that?
They're not together.
I know they're not
group.
together as a group, but is there anything to prevent that?
If I was running Noah, and historically they tend to prefer people to be who they're with, so you might get like Hayato and Yohei coming in,
that'd be good.
You could get like a one night Rattel's like invasion. That would be really cool.
Yeah.
There's loads of people I would want from Noah. Like Sugiura would be the first guy.
Yeah,
I'd
totally.
want Nakajima, obviously.
Yeah, Shiozaki.
Kiyomiya could do a defense.
Yeah.
In MLW. That's the kind of thing they used to do with ROH. That'd be really cool. Is Loki still working for MLW?
I believe so, yeah.
Because if he is working for MLW, then you could do... Is Harada... I think Harada might be junior champ again.
Is he at the minute?
I don't take my word for it, but I have a feeling...
I know Kiyomiya's heavyweight champ.
Because Minoru was...
Shiozaki and Nakajima are still tag champs, aren't they? Or did they drop them to...
Shiozaki and Nakajima?
Yeah. Did they drop them? Because they did drop them to...
I think they've dropped them.
We watched this match the other day.
Yeah. They dropped them, yes, to Sugiura and...
Who was his partner?
Kazuma Sakamoto.
Sakamoto, yeah. Did they win them back from them? I think they might still be champs,
I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Actually, Harada is not champ.
Who's champ at the minute?
It's Minoru. Minoru's still champ.
Ah, right, cool.
But either way,
Minoru would be cool.
They could do Minoru Loki.
That would be awesome.
Like a motivated Loki against Minoru.
Motivated Minoru.
Yeah. Because apart from his really bad run in like 08, where he just 07, 08, where he just became the most unmotivated guy in the world. Like, I've always loved Minoru Tanaka from CTU back to his days with Junior Stars with Koji Kanemoto to All Japan. Wrestle One we won't mention because that company sucks, but he's been great for Noah.
Well, I don't think it's Minoru's first time in MLW. Actually, I think he worked at their show over Mania weekend. I want to say.
Minoru Tanaka.
Yeah, I'm sure he faced Darga. You know Darga from Lucha Underground.
I do know Daga.
I think he faced him, if I remember correctly. If I'm wrong, I do apologise.
Yeah.
I believe that was the case.
And either way, if Harada's not junior champ, that also
Means
sort
he
of
can potentially lose.
yeah, or he can win a title. Like that would be really cool. If I was MLW, I would milk as much as they can out of that because Noah's quietly getting better.
And they've got a lot of good talent.
Oh, and of course, like I've forgotten the main guy that you'd want,
Who?
Naomichi Marufuji.
Oh, of course.
We
you've
literally
won
did
Marufuji.
not mention the
I love
most influential guy in their company.
Nakajima and Sugiura are my two favourites over there, so that's where my mind automatically went.
My heart always goes to Marufuji.
Yeah, I do love Marufuji though.
Yeah.
He is probably the most important person post Misawa in that company.
Their style is no longer King's Road, and
No.
the reason why it's not King's Road is
It's
because of
Marufuji.
Naomichi Marufuji.
Yeah, when you watch a main event in Noah,
They all work his style.
Doesn't matter whether Marufuji's in the match or not. Everybody works Marufuji's style.
Yeah.
And with that, we will move to our final segment of the week, and we were struggling to think of what we were going to do for that today, and then just before we came on the air, you were showing me some footage from Progress and Jonathon Gresham. So we decided to talk about this and how different and kind of unique and quite cool it is. So basically, long story short,
Gresham's working heel, isn't he?
he is.
CCK.
And CCK were taking on LAX. So obviously CCK consisting of Gresham and Chris Brooks. And at one point, I believe, was it Ortiz or was it Santana he had?
I think it was Santana, I'm not sure.
Anyway, he got him in a figure four, and
In the
whichever member of LAX it is manages to get the ropes. So Gresham kind of continues rolling with him, and they roll under the ropes and then eventually onto the floor. And Gresham then sort of drags him along the floor, still in the figure four, further and further into the crowd, and locks it on. And then eventually the referee gets to like the count of 6 or whatever it is, and Gresham gets out,
Yeah.
runs into the ring, and then just smiles and is telling the ref to count faster and everything. And the ref eventually counts the LAX guy out.
So they get a win by count out.
By count out. And a couple of shows later, was that like chapter 87, something like that?
Yeah, because it must have been the one, because it was Kingston, so it must have been the one after we'd been to.
No, chapter 92 was the one after we went to, which was the Kingston one. But I think the LAX one was chapter 87. I believe that's what chapter it was. And then we skipped the footage of chapter 92, which was the Eddie Kingston match.
Yeah.
So he's facing Eddie Kingston, which LAX had sort of told people that they were not going to come alone next time. Mm-hmm. And Gresham did exactly the same thing, rolled him out the ring, rolled him to the floor, kept the figure four on, and rolled back in the ring. I think this time like the count of 8 or something, and the referee counted Kingston out. Kingston said he was coming back, and he was not going to come back alone. So I assume we're getting Kingston and LAX against Gresham and Brooks and a third person. I don't know who that third person will be, but that match should be awesome. But really, it's just cool to see something different done, because pro wrestling has been around for so long.
Little new stuff, isn't there?
It's difficult to come up with anything new because everything's been done. So seeing somebody do this type of thing, it's really cool and different. I like it a lot.
It's just amazingly heelish to me as well. Like I'm a great submission guy, so I'm going to take the easiest way out here. I'm going to lock on a submission outside the ring. I'm going to hold it on as long as I can, and I'm going to roll in at the count of like 7 or 8 or whatever. And I'm just going to take the easy, cheap win, because a win's a win, and I'm a heel, and I don't care. It also showed to me how underutilized. We talked about Ring of Honor last week, didn't we? Mm-hmm. And how underutilized some people are. Like Jonathon Gresham, like doing this heel gimmick, showing all the personality in the world that Ring of Honor just haven't noticed or haven't unleashed. And that was noticeable to me.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think the one thing I really like about it, on top of what you've talked about, is, yes, it's very heelish, but it's very heelish even to smart fans. Do you know what I mean? Like, nowadays, sometimes it's difficult to get the heels booed for doing heelish things. But this thing is heelish in a way where it robs people of what they consider a clean finish or whatever.
So the crowd will boo it.
So the crowd hates it, because they hate the finish, and like, oh, what a count out. Oh, that's so stupid. I hate that. But it doesn't get the heat on the company. It seems to get the heat on Gresham.
Yeah.
Because that's the one thing about it where it would always depend on how the crowd takes it, because you don't want them to turn on Progress and go, oh, booked another count out finish.
False finishes.
Yeah. But it was actually getting the heat on Gresham, so
Agreed.
I like it a lot.
Yeah, I thought it was fantastic. More of that moving forward.
So, with that, I think that we'll wrap it up for this week. It's nice to be back on schedule. We are actually relatively on time with this. Hopefully this episode will be up sometime tomorrow. We're recording it on a Saturday night, so hopefully it'll be up sometime Sunday. And we are back on schedule, so we'll be back next Friday or next Saturday with the regularly scheduled podcast. And that's it for this week. So is there anything you'd like to add before we go, Jonathan?
I'm going to go.
Sorry, we're out of time. We will see you next week on the Two Man Booth.